So my presentation's on the social and ethical issues with the introduction of new IT systems. So what exactly are social and ethical issues? My definitions are more of like on a whole. So the term social issue refers to any issue within society which makes it difficult for people to achieve their full potential. And examples that could be poverty, unequal opportunities, and unemployment. And ethical issues occur when a given decision, scenario, or activity creates a conflict within a society's moral principles, and examples would be unethical accounting and computer crime. So what exactly are the social issues? Well, one of them is forcing technology into people who are not interested, and this could be because of a variety of reasons. Maybe people are already really comfortable with their current situation and they really like how things are currently going and are not willing to make that change. Or maybe it's because people don't want to learn new things because they don't have the access to the resources, or they don't have the time, or they just generally don't want to learn new things. And another thing is the fear of IT systems. Generally, the older you get, the harder it becomes to understand IT systems because you're more prone to like visual impairments and hearing impairments, and this could come in the way of someone's ability to master how to use a new system and really grasp the concept. Another thing is an increase in digital divide with the disparity in ability of access depending on different factors. So digital divide generally refers to the gap between areas which have access to modern technology and those that don't, or those that have very limited access. Countries that are more developed are obviously going to have more access to technology. They're also going to have more access to education and training on how to use this technology. But then countries that are not as economically developed won't have this kind of access or training, so they're a lot more disadvantaged. Yeah, and then there's also the whole concept of people versus machines. So generally, when machines come into play, they can do human jobs, and when they do human jobs, since they're machines, they don't get tired, or they don't really get affected emotionally or physically, so they can do the job a lot more like efficiently and effectively than people can. So what tends to happen is that people get unemployed because the machine can do the job better than they can do, or so yeah, and then that creates like a whole problem because that just leads to a bunch of unemployment. Another thing is privacy and anonymity. So individuals generally have the right to a certain level of privacy of their data, which they have control over, and on the other hand, people should not be able to act free of consequences as anonymous entities. Yeah, and then some people may not be as coherent with technology as others. So the issue of new technology coming in is because some people may not have that much what's it called? Like they may not be like fully versed with how to use the technology because they don't have access to it, maybe, or like they don't generally use technology, or they don't have access to learning how to use the technology, and yeah, so they're just generally disadvantaged. So some of the ethical issues: personal privacy, access rights, piracy, harmful actions, and liability. So in terms of personal privacy, it's really important for organizations to make sure that the employees and employers and everyone is just like protected against their information being disclosed or being leaked. For instance, they need to make sure that none of their private information about any individuals or group are disclosed. So that's become a major challenge, to make sure that everyone's personal information is safely kept, because IT generally facilitates users having their own hardware, OS, and software tools to access the servers that are connected to each other and to users by network. So that is one ethical issue. Another thing is access rights. Generally, there's something called intrusion detection systems are used to determine whether a user is an intruder or an appropriate user. So it's really important to have these kind of things in place to make sure that there's no like hackers being able to get into the system, with no untrusted people being able to get into the software system, and only people who work in the organization, people who are trusted with the data, can get in. And then there's piracy. So piracy refers to the activity in which there's creation of a legal copy of software. So the software industry has to be prepared to encounter against software piracy. They can do this by many like copyright protection laws and all those kind of things. Yeah, but it generally depends on owners and whether they want users to make copies or not. But generally, I don't think that normally happens, because it is protection, because the users who make copies can give it to other people who may not be trusted, and that just causes a whole issue. And then the last issue is liability. And that's the end of my presentation.